Joining us with more now on reaction to last night's political race is political consultant OBrien Murray. OBrien, great to see you here this morning as we look at the numbers as they stand right now with the electoral votes well in Donald Trump's favor as the president-elect, 45th president, now the 47th president-elect. He mentioned it during his speech that this is one of the greatest political comebacks, and granted, he has, been known for hyperbole and whatnot, but you got to say that this is probably one of the more accurate things that he has ever said. This is one of the great political comebacks.
I think he's reading James Carville stuff. It's the economy stupid. Yeah. It's what a lot of the election was, but also for what we're talking about right now, the comeback kid.
How do you get that message, though, to resonate, that it's the economy too? I know inflation, obviously, over the past few years has hit people's pocketbooks hard, but inflation numbers are down. You talk to any economist, and they say that this economy is the gold standard across the world.
Do you have economists for your Thanksgiving dinner and talk about how expensive the eggs were or the potatoes and stuff? I mean, people go every day to buy gas. They drive by it even more so. What's a gallon of milk? We don't know every day. We don't drive by it. But gas, we know, is $2.99 in Jersey and $3.15 somewhere else.
Yeah, so now moving forward, because now it's time to look ahead. The election is over. Democracy worked just the way it was supposed to. A free and fair election.
That noise was moving vans because Joe Biden is getting out of town.
Exactly.
And I mean that in a positive way. He's looking forward. And I'm kidding everybody. It's not moving vans probably
but I know what you're saying. They will at one point, obviously, there will be that transfer of power.
There'll be a meeting in the Oval with Donald Trump and Joe Biden for the second time.
Yeah.
And then there will be, and Trump didn't do it last time, I'm curious if Biden does it, there's a historic ride from the White House to the Capitol for the swearing-in with the president-elect and the president and their spouses. And they go up, and then the president, newly sworn in, walks down by himself, and the other guy flies away.
Also, the note left in the Resolute for the incoming president. It'll be interesting to see if Joe Biden does leave a note behind and what that note will say, correct?
Well, but everyone's got to look forward and be positive. I mean, we have to come together as a country. Joe Biden, when he ran, it was unity. When he finished, it was unity at the end of the campaign. But looking forward, whether it's a Congress, whether it's Senate, Chuck Schumer's no longer the majority leader.
Exactly. Well, it's funny, the changing face of Congress right now. It's going to be incredible to see all the new people, the new makeup, the new transition. John Meacham wrote to the point that you were making here about unity. You can't be for democracy only when your side wins. The point of America is we should be able to have those different views, but move forward together. That's what democracy is, disagreeing and dissenting with a common vernacular. Now we have to find the folks who have been entrusted with that power to see if they are worthy.
Those words will go in front of President Biden, and rightly so, because he wrote some of his speeches at the end and has been working with the Biden family. Yeah. And he's a fantastic writer, and that may be the unity message that Joe Biden carries forward. But we talk about this in New York, too. We have Hakeem Jeffries in Brooklyn, could be the Speaker of the House coming up at this point. And the senators were very unique because they're up every 6 years. So John Tester in Montana was up in the midterm of Donald Trump for the first year, 6 years ago. That's a very tough race. Here in New York, we had record turnout that year among Democrats, and the Republicans didn't show up in droves that year because Donald Trump was on the ballot, so the pro-Trump people didn't show up. This year, they showed up.
And Tester losing to Sheehy in that battle in Montana. So back to this presidential election. This country has been so divided, it seems, for so many years right now. So the issues moving forward, how does President Trump-elect, how does he now bring this country? I know it hasn't been his forte. So how do we help change that to get Democrats to be like, listening to him more rather than shutting him out?
I left here about 11 o'clock last night. I'm sure you hopefully were asleep because you were up early this morning. But he came out at 2:30 last night. Now, he came out before he had 270, but he knew where it was going, and he wanted to go out. And that at that point was about midnight, 11:30 so in California, on the West Coast. He waited. He could have come out 2 hours earlier with the same information their own war room had, and somebody held him back, or he held himself back, because the joke on the Democratic side was he's going to come out and declare victory no matter what. 11 o'clock, get the news, which is a campaign strategy, but he couldn't risk it. His waiting last night till 2:30 really, I think, was a step forward in this unity.
And do you think by Harris not conceding last night, that's a mistake, waiting till this morning? Or do they really feel like there could have been some late numbers coming in?
She made it very clear she'll come back tomorrow. And at a certain point in the campaign, it gets so late. The question is, did she talk to him or not and concede after that speech or not? Once he was on stage, the numbers started getting locked up again. You had the single congressional districts pop in, and then you had Nevada and other things. So his numbers just crept right up.
So is it safe to say now, as far as, because if you looked at the last few days of the campaigning, her crowds were enormous, his were, not as great as they were. Is it safe to say we can now put crowd size out as a harbinger of things to come with the election, based on when he was running against Biden, he had massive crowds. Biden did not. It just seems as though we put too much stock into it.
Sean Spicer said he had the greatest turnout for the his swearing in too for inauguration. So crowd size is always a big thing there.
We'll see. This one, it'll be very interesting to see the crowd for this inauguration as it relates to the last one.
And there's more energy here this time,
too. That's what I mean.
But that unity aspect is very important, too, because he waited, and yet what is Harris going to do going forward about that meeting? What is she going to do to concede? Where is she going to go? Where are all these other people that were on the fringes of the campaign? Are they going to be out there fighting it, or are they going to be out there helping the transition?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what we wait for on today. Is President Biden going to speak first before Harris does? I mean, what is the order there? This is all kind of up in the air. So
if I'm not mistaken, it's the president. I mean, he is still the president.
Exactly. All right. Political consultant OBrien Murray, good to see you as always. Thanks so much for putting all these long hours.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciate it.